Welcome everyone. This is Greg Rock, and on behalf of BPMinstitute.org and Progress Software, I'd like to welcome you to today's webcast, Driving Excellence in Customer Experience with BPM. We're lucky enough to have Neil Ward-Dutton, Research Director of MWD Advisors, and Dr. Ketabchi, Chief Strategist of Progress Software, with us today. And let me just give you a brief introduction to the areas that we're going to cover during today's webcast, and I'll be turning things over to Neil. Today, more than ever, customers have greater expectations and less patience when interacting with suppliers and expect businesses to be always on, everywhere, integrated, and smart. Companies that passively wait until processes break are finding an expensive way to solve problems and also risky to their brands and reputation as more and more customers are able to complain and voice their opinions via social media channels. A recent survey also showed that 60% of companies heard about problems from their customers before they had identified them themselves. A quote we use quite often here at BPM Institute, and one of my favorite, from Sam Walton, the co-founder of Walmart: "There's only one boss, the customer, and he can fire everybody in the company from the chairman on down simply by spending his money somewhere else." So this issue and topic that we're talking about today, about excellence in the customer experience, is one that's near and dear to many of the members in our community, and we're thrilled that Neil and Dr. K are able to join us today. Your featured presenters, Neil Ward-Dutton is a familiar name to many of the folks in our community and has been an analyst with over 17 years of industry experience and is an advisor to large IT user organizations as well as many of the world's leading IT vendors. Dr. Ketabchi, Chief Strategist of Progress Software, was also the founder of Savion, one of the true pioneers in the BPM space, and the first BPM product launched in 1999, and a frequent contributor and appearances in our webcast series throughout the years, and we welcome you both to today's session. Besides our webcast series, BPM Institute spreads education and knowledge about BPM through a number of different services: education, certification, communication, and networking throughout the community. And a lot of these topics and dialogues continue on our members-only social network, brainstormcentral.org. So without further delay, I'd like to turn things over to Neil Ward-Dutton.
Thanks very much, Greg. And it's great to be with you all. So thanks very much for taking the time to take part in this. So what I'd like to do is take a few minutes of your time to really try and link business issues in with some requirements for BPM technology and BPM approaches. And I'm going to really hopefully help you see how maybe more traditional ways of looking at BPM need to be viewed slightly differently if you're really to use BPM techniques and tools to drive customer experience excellence. So if there's one thing I'd like you to take away from what I'm going to say over the next few minutes, it's really that kind of received wisdom about approaches to process improvement typically are focused on optimizing for efficiency or optimizing for quality. And those things are very admirable and very worthwhile and very useful in the context of driving a customer experience improvement program. But they turn out to be not enough. They're kind of necessary but not sufficient ingredients for success. If you're going to look at really using BPM technology and tools to deliver customer experience excellence, you have to be prepared to think more broadly about goals and how you apply design principles to achieve goals in this context. So, why is this idea of customer experience excellence, that's the topic of this talk, why is that so important? Well, really we find that in our research work, pretty much every company, whatever their industry, whatever their size, whatever their location, is facing the same three key challenges. First is related to globalization, and the real outcome of that, when you bring it down to kind of brass tacks for an organization, is that customers, partners, suppliers, and competition can increasingly come from anywhere. And that has a very significant impact in terms of the pace of change and the pace of business. Second thing that we find is pretty universally a challenge is the growing need for transparency. Some of that transparency is about imposed external regulation within an industry, but some of it is also driven by consumer pressure and by competition. Overall, we see mandates for business process and for work to become more and more closely audited and more transparent. And the third and maybe most immediately obvious right now, given everything that's happening, the challenge is this idea of the smart connected consumer and the smart connected market. People who interact with companies as consumers or even as partners or suppliers really expect, as Greg mentioned right at the beginning, they expect the companies they deal with to be always on, connected, consistent in how they deal with customers across multiple channels, and smart about that. So they're delivering services in a contextual manner that's useful depending on where and when they're being accessed from. There's very, very high expectations about online experiences, and the increasingly interconnected nature of markets through the increased use of social media, as we'll come to in a minute, really makes positive and negative experiences very, very easy to amplify, and that can be fantastic, and it can also be quite a challenge. When you put all that together, what you really end up with is a situation where the things that organizations traditionally used to focus on for differentiation maybe 5 years ago, whether that was price-led or whether it was kind of product feature-led, those advantages tend to be more marginal, and they tend to not last for so long. Because of the pressures you see here, we're finding that organizations that really focus on some combination of price and product can, in a competitive market, find those advantages being eroded very, very quickly. So it's important to try and combine maybe some of that thinking with another dimension, which is about actually how you treat your customers. And if you're able to really deliver customer experience excellence, that's something that can not only be more sustainable in this kind of highly competitive environment, can also be magnified by the nature of markets today and the ways in which they are smart and connected. So just building on that, looking at this chart, as I've just said, competitiveness based on product or service price or features isn't really sustainable in competitive markets right now. So customer experience has to be considered as another way to drive sustainable differentiation. Now, if you think about customer experience as being the sum of all experiences a customer has with a supplier over the duration of their relationship, as well as this idea about the importance of the experience because of the unsustainability of price competition or product competition, you also have these other important observations. Firstly, it's easier to do business with existing customers, typically, than win new ones. Unless, of course, you're really, really lousy at customer service. But even then, your ability to win new customers is likely to be curtailed if any people who are really suffering from bad service get to tell anyone else about it, which is increasingly likely. So it's easier to do business with existing customers than win new ones. The other thing is that good and bad experiences are easier to amplify than ever. So focusing on customer experience excellence is a way, as I said a minute ago, is a way of not only looking beyond product or price as being the foundation of competitiveness, it's also a way to tap into this amplification capability that now exists in industry and to really drive growth forward. Now, looking at improving customer experience, hopefully, if you've thought about this before or if you're just starting to think about it now, you've probably already figured out that this dealing with this is about much more than the kind of classic approach to CRM, which is largely about just pulling together customer information and typically driving sales automation out of that. This is about much more than that kind of approach. And here's two illustrations of what can happen with this amplification of good and bad experiences. And please forgive me if you've come across either of these before, but they are pretty compelling examples. And I'll just talk about both of them briefly. One is a North American-focused example, and the other is more of a European-focused example. So the North American example of amplification is this situation which a lot of people will know of as United Breaks Guitars. This came about because a guy who was a touring musician, him and his band were booked on United to do a tour, and they checked their instruments. And while they were on the tarmac, loaded on the plane, and they looked out the window and saw these guys loading the luggage, they saw the handlers basically throwing guitars into the plane, and were pretty mortified by this. And when they got to the end of the flight, found out that there was quite a lot of damage to the guitars. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, the experience following that was very, very difficult for the guy concerned. Really didn't get any satisfaction out of the people he spoke to, and even speaking to anyone was remarkably difficult. So what this guy did, being a musician, was he wrote a song about it and made a little homemade video, and within relatively short order got multiple millions of views on YouTube. This became a very, very negative incident for United, and really highlighted the poor customer service they'd given to these guys. If the company had been much smarter about how it was dealing with service, and also if it had dealt with the media fallout much quicker, probably would have had a much less negative effect. The other example of where things can go wrong because of the amplification capabilities of social media is what happened in the UK. Quite a well-known retailer called Marks and Spencer had decided that it was going to charge more for ladies' underwear that was a large size than for the underwear that was a small size. And this went on for some time until one customer, who was very frustrated by the price differential, started a campaign on Facebook, and I think ended up with more than 14,000 supporters. Marks and Spencer was forced into quite a humiliating climb down, and had to publish ads on large billboards and in national newspapers. Cost it a very significant amount of money, and was forced into making the prices the same across its whole range. So again, this is another example of where the customer experience and service, poorly managed, can quickly get out of control. And the truth is that, of course, customers have always been in control, as the quote that Greg gave from Walmart illustrates. What's happening now, though, is the degree to which customers are in control is becoming more obvious, and the scale of it is really, really exploding. So, to delve into the concept of customer experience, first, we need to think about this idea of a customer journey. If a customer experience is about the sum of the interactions that a customer has with you across a journey, first of all, we need to think about the journey itself. Now, when the people used to think about customer journeys, they used to consider these things as kind of linear progressions of activities that customers would go through. But these journeys, typically speaking, have got an awful lot more complex, primarily through two things. First thing is the expectations that customers have about availability of service across multiple channels, whether that's through a contact center, website, in-store, on a mobile device, or through some kind of social media integration. And the other thing is the impact of social sharing in itself. So what you find is that what used to be a fairly simple, predictable, linear set of experiences across a customer kind of looking for a product, investigating options, and then buying something, and then receiving it and using it, has now become a kind of complex set of interrelated cycles that are socially enabled and which are much less predictable. In order to really deliver great experience, through this kind of map of a journey can actually get pretty darn tough. It's not a question of just working through a simple linear progression and mapping on how you deliver service through that kind of progression. Now, of course, you can argue that the ability to tell your friends has been in existence for hundreds of years, and of course it has. But what's really happening is that the scope and the scale of social sharing and its impact on the overall kind of customer journey, that's really what's changing. And the amplification that's possible through that social sharing means that the impact of this unpredictability is an awful lot greater than it was before. So one way to look at customer experience excellence across this kind of customer journey kind of anatomy is to think of it in terms of a hierarchy of goals or aims. And we talk about, we should try and make it simple, we talk about 3 key aims which are in a kind of hierarchy. For any of you guys out there who understand Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's supposed to be a little bit like that. The base level of service delivery you have to be able to make happen, to deliver a good customer experience, is consistency. Be consistent. So what you need to really focus on here is enabling a situation where everyone who interacts with a customer has the right information, the right authority, and the right attitude. What does that mean? It means you have to work to integrate policies, procedures, systems across brands and channels and venues. Now that in itself is quite a challenge, and it's something that many organizations still haven't gotten right. But that's really just the beginning. If you really want to deliver customer experience excellence, we have to consider going further. Going further is about making it easy. So once we've worked out how to be consistent across brands, channels, venues, and parties, we have to work out how to make it easy across those. It's all very well to understand the history of interactions the customer has had and the opportunities that are maybe present. But you have to then work beyond the boundaries of kind of classic CRM functionality, even in a multi-channel environment, to think about how you can really help customers in a way that makes sense to them. This is really about thinking much more from an outside-in perspective, much more from a customer-centric perspective. It's about fundamentally about bringing the process to the customer. Don't make customers jump through hoops and make them have to be passed around from person to person when they have issues. This is really about pulling resources to the front line in servicing in a way that's kind of integrated and contextual, so that the customer doesn't have to themselves integrate kind of service and information points. It should be about really pulling everything together at the front line so that all the information a customer needs is presented at the point at which they need it. It's about bringing the process to the customer. And the third thing, if you really want to deliver customer experience excellence, is what I call going the extra mile. And this is really just about taking things to the next level in terms of making it easy. And again, this is about outside-in thinking, and it's about understanding that in the real world, customer behavior doesn't fit into predictable process boxes where customer does A, and then they do B, and then they do C, and then they do D, and then you're done. In the real world, mistakes get made. Situations change. In the real world, on occasion, if I pay for a service online with a card, I then figure, oh, you know what, I've realized I didn't have enough balance available in that account. I would really love to be able to quickly change my payment mechanism, but I've already submitted the order. Can I do that? Well, chances are probably no. Or I've booked a delivery of a product, and I realize that, oh, damn it, you know what, I'm not going to be available to take that delivery. How easy is it for me to change that delivery slot? In the real world, things happen at unpredictable times, and delivering real customer experience excellence is about embracing those exceptions and not seeing them as things that need to be modeled out or managed out of a process. It's about understanding that the real world is dynamic, it's unpredictable, and about bringing the customer right into the heart of your processes and systems so that you can enable them to get the result they need when they need it, even if that's not necessarily what was originally planned. Now, BPM technology can contribute in many, many ways to delivering all three of those aims. BPM technology can help you integrate kind of backwards out from the customer experience with partners and suppliers so that you're giving customers much better visibility of things like availability of product or delivery schedules, for example. It enables you to deliver much better service transparency and flexibility, much stronger promises to customers about turnaround times for inquiries or for services or for product deliveries. It enables you to deliver customer self-service in a much more structured and predictable way. Enables you to empower frontline staff and really get them the right information and the right tools in their hands so they can deliver experience that are kind of integrated for the customer. And really then deliver that consistent customer servicing across maybe multiple staff who maybe have different levels of training and skill and experience. So BPM technology is a fantastic foundation. But you have to be careful. Because again, like I said right at the beginning, if when you approach using BPM technology and approaches to drive customer experience excellence, you approach it purely from the perspective of quality and efficiency, there are dangers there. The dangers are really that being judged to have delivered customer experience excellence, is really about responsiveness in the face of unpredictability. And customers are only human. They don't behave in completely rational and predictable ways. So quality and efficiency are a necessary foundation for some of the process pieces you'll need to do. But particularly to deliver those higher aims of making it easy and of really going the extra mile, you have to think about process from a slightly different perspective and think about how you can help deliver agility, dynamic behavior. Yes, that is still managed, and yes, that it still has kind of guide rails and boundaries around it, but where you're able to cope with exceptions and unpredictability. And modeling and designing systems with those design goals in mind means actually putting quality and efficiency slightly to one side of the picture and de-emphasizing them slightly. Because if you are only optimizing for quality and efficiency, chances are you won't necessarily think in the right way about how to manage exceptions and unpredictable behaviors. Just to really drive this point home, if you're looking at process improvement very much through an efficiency and quality lens, chances are there'll be a natural attitude when looking at system environments and targets to look at exceptions as things that should be engineered out. How can we take exceptions out of what we're delivering here? How can we minimize the number of exceptions? How can we handle them in the most efficient way? You've got to be very careful with that. If you're really driving customer experience excellence, particularly those higher levels of aim that I'm talking about, not just about being consistent, but really making it easy for the customer and going the extra mile, you have to be prepared to embrace exceptions. And when it comes to the attitude to change, if you're really driving for efficiency and quality, the danger is you can get into a mindset where change is something you don't really trust. Again, you want to try and minimize change. Any implications must be rigorously tested. Those things can be quite dangerous. If you're really driving for customer experience excellence, it's really about setting up the right constraints and then allowing flexibility within that to be very dynamic and really engineering flexibility in to an operational environment. That's quite a fundamentally different set of design goals and philosophies that you need to apply. So just to really wrap all this up, delivering customer experience excellence, delivering on those three aims, being consistent across channels and venues and parties, making it easy for the customer, and going the extra mile, is about really empowering all the systems and people that work on behalf of the customer to be very responsive in a dynamic and perhaps unpredictable environment. You really need tools that can go beyond that efficient and high-quality work automation that is the foundation quite often when we think about BPM. Any people working at the front line need to have tools at their disposal so that they can pull reference information, historical context, rules and policies and guidance together based on the current context and situation very, very quickly to deal with issues as they arise. And they have to be empowered to have the flexibility to make choices to drive the right result for the customer. As it says at the bottom of this slide here, when moments of truth occur, the ability to manage exceptions effectively, it has a profound effect actually on the customer satisfaction. If you're able to deal with exceptions effectively, you're going a long way to really delivering customer experience excellence. So let's delve into this a little bit more briefly from a technology perspective. BPM technology, process automation technology platforms have a key role to play. I hope I've already made that clear in really enabling customer experience excellence. But that kind of raw workflow and process automation capability needs to be complemented by other capabilities if you're really going to drive customer experience excellence. As I just kind of highlighted very quickly there on the previous chart, to really deliver that excellence, you need to empower any frontline staff to be able to work with others through collaboration systems. They need to be able to get hold of appropriate content and policies and guidance. They need to have historical context. They need to have systems that are driven by consistent policy that is externalized and they're therefore easy to change by business people. The whole system needs to be event-driven so that in situations where frontline staff aren't part of the picture, the automated systems that sit at the front line, delivering customer service elements, have to be able to be responsive to change, and really event-driven architecture is the way to do that. The last piece of the puzzle is analytics needs to also be part of the picture if you really want to drive consistent excellence across multiple channels. The ability to really understand a customer's propensity to do certain things, to understand the segment that they belong in, and therefore how you want to treat them. Analytics systems are fantastic at providing those capabilities, and really delivering an architecture for customer experience excellence has to embrace the role of analytics alongside that process automation platform, the event-driven architecture foundation, content, historical context, rules engine, and a collaboration environment all need to be tied together. Now that's a lot to take in, so what I'm going to try and do very quickly here is go through a simple scenario to explain the roles of all these different pieces and how they fit together to deliver that excellence in the experience. And what I'm going to show is an example that's focused here just on one channel. So I'm looking here at a customer contact center in a telecommunications service provider. And this is a scenario that's really all about bringing customer service and inquiry management together with promotional capability and also what's called churn management, bringing all those together as capabilities to deliver a great experience for the customer. Now in this scenario, a customer arrives at a contact center with a question. There's no other context that the customer provides except you know who they are, and they're asking, can you give me more info on this device that I've just seen on your site, device XYZ? Now, this is actually a great opportunity, and it's also a potential challenge that has to be dealt with. Because, as I've tried to show here, the analytics system, which is sitting in the contact center and which the frontline staff person is interacting with, identifies the customer immediately and shows, because there's some smart segmentation and churn analysis that's in this model, shows that the likelihood of this customer churning, that is leaving and joining another service provider, is high, because the analytics system has seen that the pattern of calls and texts and other things has dropped right off, and a few other factors. The system judges there's quite a high likelihood this customer is ready to leave, and it may be actually looking at other options. What the system also tells the contact center worker is that the customer is in a high profit segment, so this is a really valuable customer. What you find from what the front line person also finds from their dashboard environment is that the customer history shows that the contract is soon due for renewal. This, of course, is an added red flag. Here we have a customer, very profitable, likely to churn, is going to renew quite soon or not. What we also see is some content, which is about a set of handset promotions, and the output from some rules which show that eligible customers can be offered promotional deals to secure their renewal. So if we have high profit customers who are likely to churn, that frontline worker is empowered to offer some kind of, to really go the extra mile and deliver a significant discount to try and keep them on a new handset. So we have the integration of lots of different elements here at the point of service, and process is a key underpinning for this. So then what happens is the customer says, oh, that's interesting, but you know what, I'm really not sure, that's good, but you know what, I've got this other deal somewhere else, and I'm still not sure this is right for me. Now, in some environments, what would have to happen here is the frontline staff might have to say, okay, well, I'm really sorry, but I can't help you anymore because I don't have any more information. I have to check with my manager. Can you hold? Customer says, no, I'm really sorry, no, I don't have time. That customer may then be lost. If there's a system in place which enables the frontline worker to collaborate quickly with others and also see in real time, maybe from a budgeting system, that there is some unclaimed promotional budget, there's the ability for the frontline worker to quickly check with a manager to say, can I have some extra latitude to offer this customer a better deal? The frontline worker will know that there is some flexibility because this event-driven system has shown them there is some available budget that is available to be used. So we're in a position now where we're able to actually turn this situation around and do something exceptional for this customer. Now, assuming that that is then accepted and the customer takes the deal, what we're then able to do on the spot is to, with great confidence as a frontline worker, say, okay, Mr. X, we've done that deal for you. I'm delighted we could do that for you, and I'm really pleased that you're going to stay with us for another 18 months. I've initiated right now the contract, and that's in email to you right now. I've also sent relevant collateral about some additional bundles you might be interested in based on your service usage pattern, and gives you more details about the handset you're interested in, and we're going to send to you. All of that can be automated and packaged up and sent. I've also initiated the courtesy upgrade for you, and I can tell you that that's already part complete, and I can tell you that that's going to complete fully in the next 24 hours, and then we'll have it shipped out to you. And the event-based kind of substrate to all this is in the background already making sure that the provisioning and the order management is happening all the way back into the network and the service delivery platform. This is the kind of experience that's possible if you have this integrated architecture, where you're pulling together process management and that event management kind of substrate, content management, historical BI, analytics, and that flexible rules capability. When you're really able to pull those things together in the right way, you're able to deliver great experiences. And what we're really showing here is how, if you can pull these things together to enable an interaction at the point of interaction to be the best it can be, you're really in a great situation. Anytime you have to have a handoff, or there's a lack of information, or you're not able to give someone an answer immediately, you have a challenge. And what's really interesting here, I think, something that's important to bring out, is that If you approach this kind of implementation from the perspective of quality and efficiency, you might neglect to think, you know what, we really need to deal with different customer segments differently. For some customer segments, let's say this customer had been a low-value customer, maybe actually we would want to deal with them in a very efficient way. We may not really deliver them an experience that goes the extra mile. Maybe you want to reserve that high touch and, let's face it, probably more expensive servicing. Maybe we want to reserve that for the most profitable customers. In an environment where you really have these tools at your disposal and you're able to create this architecture, you then have the ability to create that differentiated approach where you're applying process and rules and policies and all these other things we talked about in a differentiated way based on what we know about the customer and their history and their propensity to do certain things. That is a very, very powerful combination. Now, the last thing I want to leave you with, because I know I've talked for quite a long time, and I want to leave enough time for Dr. Ketabchi, is really just a takeaway thought. And that is that agility is best if you're controlling things from the front. Now, I don't know if you noticed how a few years ago, high-end automobiles started to be designed with the front wheels much closer to the front of the car. And of course that was enabled by some engineering innovation. But fundamentally, the reason this was done was that the further forward you have your steering control, the greater the balance and the agility and the driving experience you will deliver to the customer. And it's the same here. You have to really drive empowerment right to the front edge of the organization. That's what we're talking about here. But this does point to one other really important key consideration if you're thinking about embarking on this journey. Driving improvement for customer experience excellence means you have to bring people who understand frontline issues right into the heart of the change you're making. You have to use tools and approaches that enable you to deliver a kind of open and collaborative exploration and improvement. If you exclude those people who are, if you like, the front wheels from your change program, you're going to have a very tough time. Well, thanks very much for your time, and I'd like to hand over to Dr. Ketabchi.
Thank you, Neil. Thanks for a very, very interesting presentation. So I want to take a few minutes and comment on what business process management systems can do if they in fact were equipped with the additional functionality Neil pointed out. Also explain what additional business results they can help users achieve if in fact they had those capabilities. There is a small set of universal objectives all enterprises want to achieve. We are all aware of those objectives. It is, of course, reducing cost, doing more and doing things faster with the same amount of resources. Improving quality of business operations by reducing the errors in those operations, and of course increasing revenue, not indirectly by improving efficiency, but directly by recognizing new revenue opportunities and taking advantage of them. BPM systems enable enterprises to reduce cost and improve quality of their operations. This has been proven again and again. There are many companies who have achieved significant cost reduction and quality improvement results by using BPM systems. Reducing costs by improving efficiency, of course, improves bottom line of enterprises. And improving quality of business operations improves customer relationship and loyalty. In fact, we have seen enterprises who have reduced the number of calls to their call centers by unhappy customers by significant 50-60% by improving the quality of business operations. The question is, how can we help these enterprises identify new revenue opportunities and take advantage of them? That is, in addition to reducing cost and improving quality, also increase their revenue. And I submit to you that going forward, this third objective, increasing revenue, is going to be more important for companies for two reasons. One is that in the past several years, most companies have focused on cost reduction and improving efficiency, and they have already achieved significant results there. Further focus on those objectives, while can achieve minor improvements, cannot achieve game-changing results. In order for companies to increase their revenue also, they need more than just BPM. To be specific, in addition to BPM, they need business event processing and embedded real-time analytics, as Neil described. When you bring BPM, business event processing, and real-time analytics together, in fact, you have a significantly more powerful business process management, and we refer to a system which brings all these functionality together in a very effective way as RPM, responsive process management. Responsive process management, of course, includes business process management, business event processing, as well as embedded real-time analytics to achieve all three main objectives enterprises pursue. This is another representation of one of the diagrams Neil described to us, where various functionality come together to meet customer-facing requirements. Here we have, of course, in the bottom of this picture, the integration infrastructure, ability to interoperate with variety of applications in the enterprise, communication and security infrastructure, and on top of that, integrated business process management, business event processing, business rule management, as well as integration with customer relationship information management are necessary, because customer-facing processes, of course, require customer information. On top, we have control tower. Control tower basically is a high-level graphic, very visual interface to all this functionality. Ability to have visibility into business processes, into business events, and impact of those events on business processes, as well as business rules and customer information and analytics about all of the above. It is on top of this platform that we can build customer-facing solutions which will achieve the strong customer relationship will increase customer satisfaction, achieve the results Neil described, as well as help us achieve increased revenue. It turns out that these customer-facing solutions are many, because there are a variety of situations where revenue opportunities become available, and we need to react to these, respond to these opportunities differently depending on the situation, location, various events, in order to take advantage of them. Not only these solutions are different for every different situation, but they are also different from one vertical to another. The same cross-sell and upsell opportunity that exists in telecommunication does not necessarily exist in retail or healthcare or manufacturing. Hence, these solutions have to also be slightly different from one vertical to another. The point being that there are many of these solutions blades that need to be built on top of this platform. And because there are many, it is important that they can be built very quickly, and that of course is a function of the ease of use and the functionality the platform RPM provides. Of course, RPM is not limited to customer-facing revenue generation solutions, only variety of business solutions, process-centric business solutions, event-centric business solutions can be built on top of this platform, RPM platform. Here are a few RPM use cases. We have a large cell phone company, I believe one of the 5 largest in the world, who is using this platform and approach to understand situations their subscribers are, and cross-sell and upsell new services to them. Not only the services of their own, but potentially the services of their partners as well. This mobile application vendor company is delivering solutions to their customers which, based on the location of subscribers, are able to offer attractive deals to subscribers and increase their revenue. A very large airline is using this platform to be aware of customer sentiments about their services, as well as customers' interest in new services, so that they can respond and take advantage of those interests. They also are able to get a sense of customer sentiment about their competitors. So not only they want to know what they do right, what they do wrong themselves, but they also want to learn from their competitors' experiences and improve their customer relationships. This platform has enabled this marketing services provider to quickly design and deliver real-time, very targeted marketing services to their clients. So their clients are able to, in real time, market various products and services to customers one-on-one based on the specifics of the customer and the situation they are in. I wanted Progress Software is a public software company delivering best-in-class products which enable enterprises in variety of verticals with variety of sizes to become operationally responsive. Progress Software has more than 500 million revenue, a solid track record of growth, and more than 25 years of profitability. Progress Software has more than 140,000 customers around the world, an extensive network of partners who deliver business solutions on top of Progress products in more than 175 countries. In fact, Progress partners generate more than $5 billion revenue using business solutions they have built on top of Progress products. The portfolio of Progress products include, of course, RPM, Responsive Process Management, Business Process Management, Business Event Processing, SOA Management and Business Transaction Monitoring, and data integration, enterprise service bus, and a very robust, powerful application development platform, which is used by Progress partners to build and deliver solutions to their customers. This chart shows you examples of Progress customers in a few of the verticals. Progress has a strong presence: financial services, communication, travel and transport, manufacturing and logistics, and retail, as well as other verticals. More than 88 of Fortune 100 companies use Progress software, and you may actually recognize your own logo on this slide. So I'd like to stop here and pass it to Greg for Q&A.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ketabchi and Neil Ward-Dutton. I wanted to thank you both for taking your time to share this insight with the members of our community. And we have a few minutes left. We're going to address a handful of questions before we wrap up this session. But just as a quick reminder, if the topics that we've talked about today are near and dear to challenges that your organization is facing, there are some additional information in the companion white paper that we promised alongside this webcast, Driving the Top Line Beyond Efficiency and Quality, which is available on the same page that you've accessed this webcast on, and something that you may want to share with your colleagues back at the office. All right, well, before we wrap up today's session, just a handful of questions here. And Neil, I'd perhaps like to start with you. The question is, with so many organizations considering their points of customer interaction, like call centers, as places where costs need to be minimized, what would you recommend to a company that's kind of gone down that path as a way to eliminate costs and the repercussions that it may have on service?
Hi there, Greg. Okay, so it's quite a good question, and of course, the only answer really to questions like this is it depends. But you know, for many organizations that have done this, and I know a lot have, I think the ultimate goal has to be to move beyond that. And the key question is how you do that, and there are a couple of key ways you can do that. Something I've seen work quite effectively is to not consider throwing the whole thing away, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, if you like. Quite often, these kind of environments can be great foundation, but key is to really do a thorough analysis, more from an outside-in perspective, and look at customer segmentation to understand how you might want to deal with different customers and different challenges in different ways. And based on that kind of outside-in analysis, then start to look at how you can build on your existing platform to deliver more flexible capabilities, to really go the extra mile for some of the more profitable customers you might want to do that for. So it may well be, as I think I mentioned briefly earlier, it may well be that for some customer segments, you're quite happy to actually deliver a very cost kind of conscious service experience. But for other groups of customers, you may want to do something different. So it's important not just to kind of throw it all away, but to look to build on that with a technology architecture that really enables you to break out of the kind of default experience and drive additional flexibility for certain types of customers. So that at a very high level, that would be my suggestion.
All right, very good, Neil. And Dr. K, the next question I have is for you and refers back to some of the capabilities of the platform. So the question is, does the RPM platform come with an embedded CRM or the ability for us to integrate an existing CRM system?
Very good question, Greg. In fact, not. RPM does not come with embedded CRM because most companies have, of course, CRM, and it is more important for RPM to interoperate with existing CRMs within our customer organizations than provide an embedded one. Therefore, it has integration and interoperation functionality with most existing CRM systems, but it does not provide one itself.
All right, very good. And this question I maybe like to put out to both of you. Neil, if I could ask you to respond to it first. You had talked about exceptions should be embraced. Can you give us an example of how that should be done, how folks should do that?
So, yeah, the kind of example that you might think of would be a kind of unpredicted need to change a delivery, for example, in an electronic commerce kind of scenario, or an unpredicted kind of request to make a payment in a different way. You know, and really, again, it should be, I guess, segment specific potentially, but the kind of exceptions that we're looking at typically are, you know, about parts of a process which occur in kind of unpredictable sequences because people figure out that in fact they've worked in the wrong way in the initial setup of the process that they've gone through with the person they're interacting with. So, and really the key is to try and be as flexible as absolutely possible. And there are a number of techniques you can use to do that. So one technique is to, for example, when you're designing a system to take an order online or through a contact center, to really delay finalizing the order as long as possible, but no longer. So clearly, there's an imperative to complete an order and process it in a timely fashion. But there are things that you can do in terms of how you design a system and a process to delay that until the point at which until the last possible moment. So you have as much information and you give as much latitude to the customer to change the way that they do things. So rather than saying that we've reached stage X in the process and nothing can be changed after this stage, really designing things so that it's possible to make a variety of changes actually quite a long way through the process. There's a number of different techniques you can make, but really at the highest level, it's about being open when you're designing to the fact that things will not occur in predictable sequences all the time, and you need to be able to manage unpredictability in a kind of in a very structured way.
All right, very good. Thank you, Neil. And Dr. Ketabchi, any comments you'd like to add on the ability of the platform to help folks manage these types of exceptions?
Sure. Exceptions, of course, are very important. In fact, the success or failure of companies often are affected more by exceptions in their businesses than by the normal course of operation. Exceptions can be quite disruptive, of course, positive as well as negative. And there are two aspects to exception. One is recognizing an exception, the other one is handling the exception. For the first part, business event processing functionality is very important because exceptions generate exceptional events, and a good business event processing will have the ability to recognize events that are out of expected patterns. For the second part, business process management is very important because once you recognize an exceptional situation through processing the events, you want to launch appropriate processes to handle those exceptions. Therefore, the integration of business event processing and BPM is critically important for both recognizing and handling exceptions.
All right, super. Well, thank you for that, Dr. Ketabchi. And unfortunately, we've got more questions than we have time in the day here, but I'm going to go ahead and give you the last word today. And the last question is, if you can recap for us how business event processing and BPM work together to make revenue generation possible. And we'll wrap up the day with that question.
Yes, actually, again, for revenue generation, it is important that we recognize opportunities based on time, based on location, based on an action. For example, a customer may buy a shirt, and we know, well, that customer may also need a tie. As well as based on connection. For example, if a customer is interested in a product, the chances are that others who are connected with that customer in variety of social network environment may be interested in the same product. So recognizing the revenue opportunity has to, of course, happen in real time, and it is largely a business event processing solution. However, once the revenue opportunity is recognized, taking appropriate actions like the ones Neil described, how do you quickly offer a better deal for your customer without taking time and going back to your manager, going back through the lengthy processes, lengthy approvals. All of that are process problems. How the processes to take advantage of the recognized opportunities are designed and how efficiently they are executed. So again, the two work hand in hand. One, recognizing real-time opportunity, and the other one, taking the proper actions to take advantage of them.
All right, Dr. Ketabchi and Neil Ward-Dutton with MWD Advisors, I'd like to thank you both for your time today, as well as the folks from Progress Software for hosting this webcast for our members. And to our members, we thank you very much for attending and participating in this webcast. We look forward to hosting you at a webcast in the near future. Thank you very much.